Hello and welcome to the FatBoss Guide to Kormrok on Mythic.
Yes, and this fight is a hell of a lot more difficult than it was on Heroic mode. You need so much more coordination, and that's the whole thing about this fight. It's just coordinating your movement to make sure you don't horribly die.
Now for this encounter you do want to bring 2 tanks, 4 healers and a balanced DPS setup. You can bring virtually whatever you like. Now this fight on Mythic introduces a brand new mechanic that fundamentally is the most important thing and comes immediately more or less as the fight begins. Every time the boss leaps into a pool to soak up all the goo, he'll actually splash some of the liquid from the pools and it will land on the main encounter area. If you're not stood in the targeting circle before it lands, it will cover that particular area, and if you stand in these areas, you'll take high ticking damage, so it blocks you from accessing certain areas of the room. Now, the amount of targeting circles that actually spawn from this leap are way beyond the numbers that you actually have in your raid team, and it isn't possible for you to soak more than one with a single player. This forces you to have preset places that you'll want to assign people to stand in every single time the boss leaps away. Now, Exhaustus Raid Tools actually has a built-in mod for this boss that will allow you to assign the positions, kind of how it works for the hand locations on Kormrok in the Blackrock Foundry. However, we personally just assign players a number between 1 and 20 and got them to stand in certain locations based off an image we've made, and you can find a link to this image in the description of this video, so you can use either, it's up to you. So the area that you want to clear is exactly the same every single time. You want to make sure that you cover the middle area of the room, as you can see on the screen now, as well as the area that is between that and the red pool. And the main reason why you want to clear this area is because of the dragging hands. One important thing to note also on Mythic is that the empowerment effects that the boss gets from all the pools, instead of it affecting his next 3 abilities, it affects his next 4 abilities. So the green empowerment will affect the next 4 hands, the red one the next 4 runes, and the purple one the next 4 waves. The spell timing on this fight actually remains the exact same, so it means that towards the end of the fight, because the empowerment's lasting for 4, you're going to have to deal with all 3 empowerments at the exact same time, and that's the hardest part of the fight. So let's go back to the very start of the encounter and talk about what you need to do at what point.
Now on the pool, you want to take the boss over towards the green pool, so he receives the green empowerment first. When he leaps, just make sure everyone soaks their designated areas. And on the pool, by the way, don't bother popping all your CDs because you'll get about, 6 seconds off before he goes all the way over to that green pool. It's best to use your CDs when he actually returns and is in place. Shortly afterwards, you'll get the dragging hands. If you see where we're positioned, and if you do this for every single dragging hand, it's very easy for you to remain spread, yet all move in the same direction. What you want to do is just AoE down the hands just like you did on Heroic mode and you're good. During the green empowerment, tanks just make sure you are swapping on the crushing hand, and DPS swap to it immediately to free your tank because they hurt a hell of a lot more on Mythic. Now for all the pounds, we'd recommend that you do not use any healing cooldowns apart from on a couple of the later ones, which we'll explain in a minute. Providing that everyone is spread out, you can easily survive the damage, so don't get too scared and pop all your shit at once, just chill and you should be fine. Now for when the waves come in, just avoid them as best as you can. You obviously have far less room to work with, but it's a lot better for you to take the ticking damage from the pools on the ground rather than the waves that are coming out. However, if you just look at where the waves are coming, you can easily pre-plan your movement so you don't get hit by either. Now when the explosive runes spawn, around half of them will spawn just outside of the area that you've cleared. And we have Hunters Det, Rogues feign or cloak them, or just have anyone use a personal damage reduction just to go out and quickly soak them. Now on your second set of grasping hands, the pools will despawn and the boss will leap to the red pool. It's very important that you kill these hands off as soon as possible so you can get back to your soak spots immediately. It's good if you use something like a stampeding roar here just so you can get into your positions quicker. After you have soaked, you'll now have your first set of empowered runes. Now instead of pushing these towards the middle of the room like you would do on Heroic, instead what you'll want to do is actually push them into each other along the edge. Now starting from the boss, we have a rogue using feint and cloak go right, and a hunter go left using deterrence and pushing the runes together. We also have a backup player towards the last runes just to help out if any of them are a little bit out of place. It's also a good idea to have your disc priests assist these players by using things like cows as well as shields just to keep them topped up because they will be taking some ticking damage from the goo on the floor. One thing that you can do is that if you let the runes grow slightly before you decide to soak them, it is a higher chance that they will despawn as they will be physically nearer one of the other runes. Don't leave it too late though, as an explosion will wipe you, and you got to remember that you do have to go all the way around the circle, so don't let them go really big and then soak. Give them a couple of seconds at most and then go on your way.
Now at the same time, one of your tanks will get an explosive burst. You want to make sure that you taunt the boss into the middle of the room and make sure that no one is in range of that tank. The affected tank should use some form of cooldown for this burst because it does deal a large amount of damage. Now, after dealing with a pound and a couple more explosive bursts, a set of waves and grasping hands, the boss will cast his explosive runes again. At the exact same time, the pools will also despawn. If you're quick enough, you should be able to deal with all the runes and get back into your soaking positions before the boss leaps away to the purple pool. If you're not able to, don't worry about it too much. A way of dealing with this issue is having your players that you've assigned to soak the runes, place them in less important pool soaking locations. So that way if they're not able to soak a pool, it doesn't really matter. After you've soaked and the boss is in position, you'll have your first empowered waves. Like in Heroic, move towards one of the pools and try and dodge those particular waves first, and then try and dodge the waves that are coming from other pools. Now, during these waves, one of the tanks will be hit by SWAT. Try and make sure that this hits the tank with the highest mobility so they can get back to the raid very, very quickly, as they will be running across all these pools on the ground. Of course, they do quite a lot of ticking damage. You may also want to consider just stacking a shit ton of externals on them, just so they survive. Also, during these waves, you'll have pound. Now, this pound completely sucks. You'll have people stacked because of the limited room, and you'll have people taking the odd bit of damage from either the pools or the waves. This pound is dangerous, and you'll see people get comboed. This is when you want to use half of your personal cooldowns and half of your big healing cooldowns, just to make sure that everyone stays alive. Once these waves have started to die down a little, you'll then have explosive runes again, and you need to deal with these explosive runes very, very quickly. Make sure you assign even more people to clear these up. Use your hunters, your monks, your rogues, your paladins, anyone that can soak these very quickly without taking any damage. And the reason why you need to soak them really fast this time is because very shortly after they spawn, you'll instantly have grasping hands. And of course, if you haven't cleared them up and you're inside hands and you're being dragged away from them, they're going to explode and you're almost certainly going to wipe. Very shortly after these hands have spawned, you'll also get a pound, and of course you don't want to be stacked when this comes in, and while you're in the hands, although you're loosely spread, you're still going to be taking damage if a pound goes off. So this is where you want to use your other half of your personal cooldowns and your big healing cooldown.
If you survive through this crucial 30 seconds of hell, you're good, and the boss should almost certainly be dead. And if you've got good DPS and everyone has a ring, it's likely you'll kill the boss way before these overlaps even ever happen. So it should die, you should be good. So apart from this 30 seconds of absolute chaos, it's all about just watching timers, dealing with the empowered explosive runes correctly, and soaking the pools correctly so you have enough space to deal with the incoming mechanics. And that's it. It's actually a pretty simple fight. It can get very fucking scary at certain points, especially when you're learning to do the explosive runes. And of course, if you haven't got the classes to do our explosive rune strat, of course you can always go back to Heroic, but it just means that you're pushing runes into the middle, and that's the only clean space. So you might be putting runes on other people. It can get a bit messy. That's why we recommend this circle strat instead. But it shouldn't take you too long if you follow these steps, and the boss should eventually die.
Thank you very much for watching, guys. If this guide helps you out, then please do drop us down a like, and we shall see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.